И мы видим заявление вновь избранного президента США и членов его команды о желании восстановить прямые контакты с Россией, прерванные не по нашей вине уходящей администрации. Слышим также его заявление о необходимости сделать все, чтобы не допустить Третьей мировой войны. Безусловно, мы приветствуем такой настрой и поздравляем избранного президента Соединенных Штатов Америки со вступлением в должность. Подчеркну, мы никогда не отказывались от диалога, всегда были готовы поддерживать ровные отношения сотрудничества с любой американской администрацией. Я говорил уже об этом неоднократно. Исходим из того, что диалог будет строиться на равноправной и взаимоуважительной основе, учитывая ту значимую роль, которую играют наши страны по ряду ключевых вопросов повестки дня в мире, включая и укрепление стратегической стабильности и безопасности. Мы также открыты для диалога с новой администрацией США по украинскому конфликту. Самое важное здесь – устранить первопричины кризиса, о которых мы много раз говорили. Это самое главное. Что же касается самого урегулирования ситуации, то вновь хочу подчеркнуть, его целью должно быть не краткое перемирие, а не какая-то передышка для перегруппировки сил и перевооружения с целью последующего продолжения конфликта, а долгосрочный мир на основе уважения законных интересов всех людей, всех народов, которые проживают в этом регионе. Но мы, конечно, будем бороться за интересы России, за интересы российского народа. В этом, собственно, и заключается цель и смысл проведения специальной военной операции.
This is my video update on this Monday afternoon, January the 20th, coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with January 20th, the inauguration of Donald J. Trump as the President of the United States, and the sending off of Bidenopolis, Greece's favorite son. No, Bidenopolis is gone. It's over. It's over for Bidenopolis. The Professor Biden. No more Professor Biden. Anyway, yeah. Thank God we made it. We kind of made it through 4 years of Biden. Oh, what a terrible 4 years it was under Biden. Under Biden, Sullivan, and Blinken. We're going to get to Blinken. We're going to get to Blinken real soon. But it's Inauguration Day. The word is that Trump has got a whole lot of things planned for the first few days of his presidency. He's going to be removing the security clearance of the 51 intel agents. Yeah, the 51 intel agents who lied about the Hunter Biden laptop. Remember those guys? Those guys and gals who lied about the Hunter Biden laptop. It's Russian disinformation. We even wrote a letter and we signed that letter. You must believe us because we wrote a letter and we signed a letter and we're former intel agents and it's Russian disinformation, the whole Hunter Biden laptop thing. People believed it, man. People believed it. Anyway, their security clearance is going to get yanked. Hopefully it's going to get yanked. And they're getting off easy, if you want my opinion. They're getting off real easy if that's all that's going to happen to them. But Trump's going to sign a whole bunch of executive orders. Something like 100 executive orders are going to come into effect during the first few days of his administration. Of course, we have the whole TikTok thing. I've talked about the whole TikTok back and forth for the past couple of days. The word is that Trump is going to to extend TikTok for another 90 days, even though the court has upheld the decision to ban TikTok in the United States. Trump is trying to save TikTok, but more than that, he's trying to get some sort of a joint partnership put together, a joint venture put together over the next 90 days where 50% of TikTok will be TikTok US. I imagine it's TikTok US operations. 50% will be Chinese. The other 50% will be US owned. That's basically what he's trying to put together, and he's given 90 days for this to happen. I think TikTok is back up and running. But from what I understand, you can't update. It's on the app stores. You can use it, but they're just not updating the app, or they're not allowing any app updates because the service providers, from what I understand, this is my understanding of things, the service providers, for example, that are working with TikTok, like Oracle, the hosting, stuff like that, the database management, they're worried that if they continue to provide services for TikTok, they're going to get fined, and the fine is around $5,000 per every user every day. So while the app is now back up and running, it's just not updating in the US. That's my understanding of things. But I imagine that's going to change because one of the executive orders that I believe Trump is going to sign is to get TikTok, is to give TikTok 90 days to figure out what they're going to do with it. Anyway, I'm tired of talking about TikTok, man. This has been a huge story, but we need to move on. Let's see what's going to happen. I imagine this will get resolved. Maybe it will even get resolved when Trump meets with Xi Jinping, because according to the Wall Street Journal, one of Trump's first trips, if not his first trip, is a meeting with Xi Jinping. I don't know if Trump's gonna go meet Xi Jinping somewhere, or if they're going to, or Xi Jinping's gonna meet Trump. I don't know how it's going to be set up, but that's one of the first people that he wants to meet. Maybe not his first trip, but one of the first people he wants to meet, wherever that will be, probably at some summit somewhere, some G20 or something like that, I don't know. It's going to be Xi Jinping. That's who he really wants to see face to face, is according to the Wall Street Journal. Trump has also given the order to his administration to set up a call with Putin right away. ASAP, he is telling his people, let's arrange a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. We need to speak about Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal says Trump planning early China trip. The incoming president wants to improve ties with Xi Jinping after threatening to slap harsh trade tariffs on Beijing. The Wall Street Journal says. CNN says as Trump's Ukraine deadline comes soon, he prioritizes a talk with Putin. Interesting, huh? We're going to have a US president that actually talks to world leaders instead of just the Europeans. Biden was all good with the Europeans. Everybody else, not so good. Outside of Europe, they really did not like Bidenopolis. How can you not like Bidenopolis? Come on, man. How can you not like talking to the professor? He has so much knowledge to give, the professor. Yeah, so Trump is going to talk to the big powers, right? He's going to talk to the big powers, spheres of influence. Let's talk to Xi Jinping. Let's talk to Putin, and let's try to get some stability in the world. So let's talk now about Blinken. I said I'm going to talk about Blinken. Let's talk about Antony Blinken. Secretary of State no more, Antony Blinken. Man, the New York Times, they completely trashed Blinken in an article they put out the other day. We are talking completely trashed Blinken. They called him Should we go for a walk? Let's go for a walk. They called him the Secretary of War. That's what they called Blinken. The Secretary of freaking War. They really trashed him. They trashed him over Ukraine. They trashed him over Gaza. Man, Blinken, the warmonger. Even the New York Times is calling Antony Blinken a warmonger. One sec. Let me read you the title of this NYT article. How Antony Blinken, America's top diplomat, became the Secretary of War. President Biden's longtime aide rallied scores of nations to defend Ukraine, but then became a villain to the many critics of U.S. support for Israel's war in Gaza. So I'm going to read you a bit of this New York Times article. Let's go for a little bit of a walk in the marina here in Limassol. So in this article in the New York Times, it actually says that Blinken was like a son to Biden. He was like a son. I think they say a surrogate. His surrogate son, Antony Blinken. That's how close they were. That's how much trust, love, and affection Bidenopolis had for Antony Blinken. But the article goes on to talk about all the wars that Blinken got the U.S., the Biden administration entangled in, all the wars that the U.S. escalated, specifically Ukraine and the Middle East, Gaza. And it says in this New York Times article that Milley, get this, man, the New York Times is saying that Mark Milley, then chief of staff, you know, the man that made up the 3 days to capture Kiev, that Mark Milley, that people actually believe. Every time someone says, well, Russia didn't capture Kiev in 3 days, I'm just like, oh my God. You guys actually believe that? It was Mark Milley. It was Milley. He made it up. He made it up. Anyway, after the great Kharkiv counteroffensive, the New York Times says that Milley told the Biden administration, he told Bidenopolis that now is the time to press Zelensky to negotiate, because Ukraine will never be in a better position to negotiate than right now, now that they've captured Kharkov. And this has been a great success, a whole lot of territory captured. Now is the time to negotiate. And Blinken said no. Blinken said no, we need to escalate. More weapons to the Green Goblin, he said. And the New York Times also claims that, yeah, Boris Johnson absolutely sabotaged the peace deal, the ceasefire in 2022. But Blinken was also behind that as well. Basically, the New York Times is saying that Blinken was the driving force for escalation in Ukraine. That is what the New York Times is saying here. The Secretary of War, Antony Blinken. I need to read you what it says. One sec. It's a good place to put the coffee down, I guess. It's a good place. Let's see here. As the war progressed, neither side sought negotiations. So Mr. Blinken was less a peacemaker than a war strategist, immersed in details of military hardware and battlefield conditions. He often argued against more risk-averse Pentagon officials in favor of sending powerful American weapons to Ukraine. And when the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark A. Milley, suggested in late 2022 that Ukraine should capitalize on battlefield gains by seeking peace talks with Moscow, Mr. Blinken insisted the fight should go on. Visiting Kiev in May, Mr. Blinken, a guitar player, took the stage at a packed music club and led a local band in a rendition of Neil Young's "Rockin' in the Free World." The defense of Ukraine had offered him A literal rock star moment. Oh man, the New York Times. Brutal, dude. Brutal. Now, I know the New York Times supports Blinken and escalation and the Green Goblin and all of that stuff. Absolutely, the New York Times supports it. But man, they make Blinken look really, really freaking bad. I'm talking really bad. Remember that when he was in Kiev and he went to a club, picked up a guitar, and he rocked out to Rockin' in the Free World. Jeez. That was one of the Clown World of the Year moments of 2024, courtesy of Antony Blinken. Yeah, so the New York Times got Blinken on that one. They really got Blinken on that one. Then they lay into Blinken over the Middle East and Gaza. Yeah, they say Blinken was one of the driving forces for making a mess of the Middle East and of Gaza. They basically say that Blinken made God knows how many trips to the Middle East. And the New York Times said that all of his trips were just disasters. Absolutely disastrous trips by Blinken to the Middle East. Every time he went, things got worse and worse. So I'm going to find a place to put this coffee down and read you a paragraph from the NYT describing Antony Blinken diplomacy, if you can call it that. Let's see here. Where can I put this coffee down? You see, there's all kinds of people filming videos around here. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. There's other YouTube and Instagram and TikTok around here. Is it gonna hold? Yeah, it's gonna hold. Let's see here. Mr. Blinken would make a dozen wartime trips to the Middle East. They were grim affairs in contrast to the European tours, where he was hailed as a savior of Ukraine. Israeli officials complained about pressure from Washington on one day while Arab monarchs fumed on the next that Israel was out of control. Well, we know the truth about Blinken now and Gaza, right? That's all come to light. Blinken, the driving force for war. War in Ukraine, war in Gaza. The Secretary of WAR is what the New York Times is calling Blinken. So the Washington Post, they are reporting that the cutting of cables in the Baltic Sea, remember that story? The Russian ships, the Chinese ships, they're in the Baltic Sea causing all kinds of trouble, cutting cables and sabotaging communication links between Estonia and Finland. Damn it, Russia. Damn it, China. Why are you always trying to mess around with Estonia and Finland? I'm sick and tired, man, of China and Russia trying to mess around with Finland and Estonia. Damn it. Anyway, that's all BS. That's all BS. The Washington Post, they put out an article saying that there was no such Russian or China sabotage going on. None of that stuff. It was all a load of bollocks. This is what the Washington Post is reporting. And this is the Washington Post, everybody. Bezos, CIA, WAPO, now coming out with a report saying that Russia and China were not sabotaging anything. These were just accidents. The communication being cut off, the cables being damaged were just accidents. And there's a reason why the Washington Post is putting out an article like this. I believe there's a reason why they're putting this out, because a couple of days ago, the Telegraph was running an article from David Axe, who has been very much involved in covering the conflict in Ukraine, very pro Green Goblin, Zelensky, David Axe. He wrote an article in the Telegraph talking about how Finland and Estonia are working to block Russia in the Baltic Sea. They want NATO ships in the Baltic to bottle up Russia in St. Petersburg. David Axe, Putin's navy is bottled up as even more NATO ship killers line the Baltic shore. Ripples from Russia's invasion of Ukraine continue to spread. NATO's newest members are moving to close the Baltic Sea to Russia's ships. In wartime, Sweden has just deployed a new anti-ship missile that ranges far enough to keep Russian ships from leaving St. Petersburg or Kaliningrad, and by extension, leaving the Baltic, to reach the North Sea and the wider Atlantic Ocean. And on the screen, you can see a map of how Finland, Estonia, Sweden, they're bottling up Russia in Kaliningrad and St. Petersburg. NATO ship killers is what the title of this article says. Trying to close off the Baltic to Russia. That's why the Washington Post put out that article. Yeah. They're basically sending a message now that you have a new administration. Keep in mind that Bezos, all right, let's connect some dots. Bezos is at the inauguration. Bezos, a little bit loud here, one sec. Yeah, Bezos is at the inauguration, right? There are photos of him hanging out with Elon Musk. He donated $1 million to the inauguration. Bezos has become MAGA. He's MAGA Jeff. MAGA Jeff. Magazon. Amazon Magazon, get it? It's a bad joke. Anyway, yeah, so he has the Washington Post. And they're sending a message to NATO, to Finland, to Sweden, to Estonia, to the Baltics. Cut the crap. Enough. Enough of this provoking Russia. We need to figure out a way to figure some things out. We need to figure out how to figure things out and get some stability in the world. So stop provoking. That's why the Washington Post came out with that article talking about communication lines in the Baltic not having anything to do with Russia, right at the time when the Baltic countries and Sweden and Finland are looking to cause some serious trouble for Russia. They're really looking to provoke Russia. I mean, you're talking about a naval blockade. That's what they're talking about. A naval freaking blockade. Are you guys high, man? Are you guys dipping into Zelensky's stash? Sweden, Finland, Estonia. You're talking about a naval blockade of Russia. Jeez, man, of St. Petersburg and Kaliningrad. That's nuts, man. And then if Russia was to respond to this blockade, they would cry and complain to the U.S. Why is Russia so aggressive? Why are they doing this to us? Help us, America, help us. Anyway, let's move on. So, what else should we discuss? Steve Bannon is warning Trump not to get bogged down in Ukraine. He says that Ukraine risks being Trump's Vietnam. If we aren't careful, it will turn into Trump's Vietnam. That's what happened to Nixon. He ended up owning the war, and it went down as his war, not Lyndon Johnson's, Bannon said. That's what we've been saying on the Duran for how long now? How long have we been saying that that Trump absolutely has to make sure he does not get bogged down in Ukraine, which is exactly what the UK, exactly what the Europeans are trying to make happen. Perfectly said from Steve Bannon. We've been saying it for a while now. Steve Bannon sums it up perfectly. If Trump gets bogged down in Ukraine, then it becomes his war. He's going to own the war that Biden provoked, escalated, mismanaged, all of those things. It's just going to get transferred over to Trump. So he has to be very careful. Do not get bogged down in Ukraine. Don't fall for everything that the Europeans and the UK and Stammer are telling you or trying to get you to do. Go to Putin, speak with Putin, try to figure out a deal, try to figure out a solution that takes Russia's interests into account, that takes the US's interests into account, that takes Europe's interests into account, Ukraine's, that takes the interests into account, everyone's interests into account. Listen to what Putin has to say, listen to Russia's side of things, try to find a solution. If there is no solution, learn to walk away, man. Walk away. Learn to walk away. Because if you get bogged down in Ukraine, man, you are toast. So that's Bannon's warning to Trump. I would listen to Bannon. I would listen to him. Medvedev, he talked about Bidenopolis. Now that Bidenopolis is gone, now that he's exiting the scene, and Medvedev, he said that Biden has always been obsessed with Ukraine. Even when Medvedev was president and Biden was vice president, right? Yeah. When Medvedev was president, Obama was also president, Biden was the vice president, and Medvedev, he met with Biden, and he said that he would have meetings with Biden, and Biden was completely obsessed with Project Ukraine. Even back then, he was obsessed with Ukraine. This is what Medvedev said. When I had meetings with him, he didn't yet have dementia. What did catch my attention was his unhealthy interest in Ukraine, even though he explained it to me by acting on Obama's instructions. That's what Medvedev posted on social media. He's right. Even before the brain became mashed potatoes, Biden, the Biden family, they've been absolutely obsessed with Ukraine and absolutely hostile to Russia and Putin. This goes way back, Project Ukraine. Of course, we have Hunter, Burisma, $80,000 every month for being on the board of Burisma. I told Poroshenko, you're not getting the $1 billion if you don't fire the prosecutor. Son of a gun, he fired the prosecutor. It goes way back, the Biden family in Ukraine. Obsessed with Ukraine, obsessed with trying to destroy Putin, obsessed with trying to destroy Russia. How did that work out for you, Bidenopolis? How did that work out for you? BLINKEN Secretary of WAR, Antony Blinken, according to the New York Times. Salome Zurabichvili. She's hanging around the inauguration. She's in D.C., right? She's part of the McCain Institute. The McCain Institute. There's someone who was obsessed with Ukraine. John McCain. Yeah, so they have an office in Arizona where John McCain was senator. But from what I understand, the majority of the McCain setup is in D.C., of course, because they're lobbying for war. That's what they do. They lobby for war and weapons. And Zuda Pichvili, she is now a part of the McCain Institute, and she's in D.C. She's hanging around the inauguration events. No doubt she's lobbying the Trump administration to continue the regime change efforts in Georgia. There are photos with her hanging out with Trump Jr. There are photos with her hanging out with Marco Rubio. And there are photos with her, Ayos Yorgos, slaying the dragon, St. George. There are photos of her hanging out with a small church. Pete Hegseth. Beautiful. Beautiful icons of St. George, huh? What an interesting place for such a tiny church. So look, they're just photos. No big deal, but it does give us some insight as to what Zuda Pichvili has been tasked to do. To get to the Trump administration, to lobby the Trump administration on behalf of Georgia regime change. So let's do some clown worlds, and we can wrap this video up. Have you seen the meme about the Biden postage stamp? Not real. It's not real. It's just a meme. But it's a photo of Biden looking clueless, as always. And it has 0 cents. 0 cents. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's nothing in there. It's empty, man. It is empty. You couldn't give Biden at least a penny, at least 1 cent. Come on, guys. Come on, meme makers. Give him something. Give him something, man. Every now and then he knew what was going on, kind of. When they boosted him up with whatever juice they gave him, it kept them going for like an hour or two. Anyway, we have that. We also have this feud that is going on between Dr. Jill Biden and Nancy Pelosi from Newsweek. Jill Biden compared to Lady Macbeth as feud with Nancy Pelosi intensifies. Yeah, you know what this feud is about? This feud is about Pelosi coup d'etat-ing Joe Biden, and she gave an interview or statement the other day, Pelosi. I didn't report this. I wonder why I did not report this, but Pelosi said something along the lines of we, or I regime changed Biden, or someone, maybe it wasn't Pelosi, someone in the Democrat Party said that it was Pelosi that spearheaded the coup d'etat, the regime change of Biden. Something like that went down, and Dr. Jill is furious with Pelosi. Let me see here what Newsweek is saying. A deep rift has reportedly emerged between First Lady, not First Lady anymore, Jill Biden, and former Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, stemming from Pelosi's reported role in orchestrating President Joe Biden's withdrawal from the 2024 campaign. The growing tension has escalated after Pelosi's daughter, Alexandra, compared the First Lady to Shakespeare's Lady Macbeth, while the Bidens maintain a notable silence following Pelosi's recent hip injury in Luxembourg despite her multiple attempts at reconciliation, Politico reports. All right. Yeah, Dr. Jill's upset, man. She is upset that Pelosi coup d'etat her husband. You did so well, Joe. You answered all the questions. Damn it, Pelosi, he answered all the questions. Why did you do him like that? It wasn't only Pelosi, to be fair. It was Pelosi and Barack, and Clinton, and Schumer. Don't put all the blame on Nancy. Come on. Oh boy, anyway, that's the video. That's the clown world. Paradox Museum. Wonder what's going on in here. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. The link to the Duran shop is in the description box down below. Today I have a shirt with the flag of Austria. So yeah, I will see everybody tomorrow, mañana. Take care.